We're here with an exclusive first look and first ride of Orbea's brand new Orca OMX. So the new Orca OMX, point of this bike, they've taken the best bits of the existing Orca OMR, which is a lightweight kind of climbing bike, grand tour bike, and the super fast, super aero Orca Aero. They wanted to bring both of the best elements of that bike together in a new super light, high-end package, and this is what we've got here. So Orbea tell us that the goals for this bike was to make a super fast bike, but one that wasn't compromised on weight. So the OMX is 20% lighter than the Orca Aero, but it's also 10% quicker than the existing OMR and 15% stiffer. So this bike is designed to go fast, beat the wind, but not hinder you when it comes to big alpine climbs. So what that means is we've got an 830 gram frame, we've got a 370 gram fork, so that's a really, really super light chassis. And this bike, which is the Dura-Ace Di2 model, it's the second from the top. This bike weighs in at bang on 7.5 kilos. Pretty lightweight for a disc equipped bike. As you can see from looking at this bike and looking at its spec, we're talking Dura-Ace Di2 with carbon Mavic wheels. Really nice carbon finishing kit from OC, which is Orbea's new component line. This bike does come in at just over €8,500. We don't have confirmed UK or US pricing yet. We've got this bike so early. So yeah, it's not cheap. There is one more expensive with red axis, and the range starts at an Ultegra mechanical version and at just over €4,500. So this bike is sitting at the high end of Orbea's range. The existing Orca, the OMR, is going to sit below. So there's probably going to be some bargains to be found on that bike, which we love, we think is brilliant. So what else is there to say about the OMX? Well, it's disc only. There's never going to be a rim brake version of this bike. Now that's a big turning point for a Spanish brand like Orbea to say we're not making rim brake bikes anymore. Some of you might find that exciting because it does seem to be a big turning point for the company. Others of you might be disappointed. So let's take a look at some of the features on the brand new Orca OMX. Orbea are using Mavic's speed release axles, front and rear. That's basically, it's a through axle, but one dropout is slotted, so you don't take the through axle all the way out. You pull it out till it clicks. Basically, you can drop the wheel out, which means you're not putting a greasy through axle on the floor if you're mending a puncture and everything, and then therefore pushing grit inside your hub. It's a really smart little system. Cannondale are using it. There are a few other brands out there using it, and we do approve. Then we move on to the fork. Now, this fork's got a really distinct kind of bow-legged shape. It's something Orbea brought in on the Orca Aero. They've said that the reason for this design is by having the forks in a kind of bow shape, it moves them away from the turbulent air of the front wheel spinning, creating a cleaner front end, making for a faster bike. Moving up onto the stem, Orbea's new OC ICS, which is an integrated system, but unlike a lot of complex integrated systems we've seen on lots of aero road bikes, this one's actually quite simple. The stem's effectively like a sort of U-channel in this shape, and then the underneath is like a flat plate. So they actually separate, so you just feed the cables in, the cables run down the steerer, all the cabling is totally integrated, which means you get this super clean look. Because of the way they've done this system, with their cables having that little bit more freedom, it means there's no bump stops on this fork. So the fork rotates just like classic forks of old. You know, they haven't got any sort of steering lock to prevent you snagging or tearing those cables out. Then we're moving further down the bike, and there's a really nice practical touch here, and that's the integrated seat clamp. Lots of integrated seat clamps on lots of its rivals, where it's where the bolt comes from underneath. It's quite inaccessible, it's quite fiddly to use, hard to torque, hard to get a tool in there. Orbea's solution, just having that pin straight through, really nice, really simple, makes saddle adjustments really easy, makes getting the torque settings right. Just a very, very clever, really nice, neatly thought out thing. The seat post, like pretty much every other bike on the market right now, is D-shaped. That's something we first saw a few years ago. Giant introduced it with their cross bike, the TCX. It's been pretty much adopted by everybody now, so it must do something right. And then when we're moving on to the back in conjunction with the front, the other thing Orbea have done here is they've given you really generous tyre clearances. This is an out-and-out race bike, but they also want it to be a bike that you can live with. So you can get a 32C tyre in there. that opens up this bike to being a great all year round bike, you know, having those big fat tyres for commuting, or just if you just live somewhere where the roads are pretty rough. You know, this is a really, really good, usable superbike, if there ever was such a thing. I can't in any way give a full test on this bike just yet, seeing as we only got it out of the shipping crate this morning and I've only been riding it for today. So I've had literally 2-3 hours riding it. But first impressions, really good. This bike just feels so lively, it's so light, feels really, really quick. Compared to other bikes that have launched this year, I'd probably say it's closest to the new Cannondale Super 6 Evo, and there's a little bit of kind of specialised engine there as well. It's got the same kind of nimble feel as a Cannondale, and obviously from the previous Orca, which I'm a big fan of. I've got this bike for a while, I'm going to get some serious miles into it, then we'll report back. So let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.